An annual tradition of the Cives Pro Ali still. We began the tradition of this night last year in an effort to call attention to the need not only to be diligent scholars, but also outstanding citizens who are ready to embark upon lives of activism in support of social justice. Last year, we had the good fortune of hearing from 2008 alumnus Christopher Lamontia, who reflected on his journey through Rocky Hill and then Worcester College on his way into medical school. This year, we have the great opportunity to hear from Dr. Jordan Sack, class of 2006. I had the great pleasure of teaching Jordan during his junior and senior years at Rocky Hill. And when I introduce him later, I will be sure to take just a few seconds to embarrass him ever so slightly. I wanted to take a couple moments tonight to reflect on some thoughts about our school motto, Know Thyself. The phrase dates back to early Greek history and was inscribed on the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, a marvelous ruinous site which I, along with a number of other Latin students, have had the pleasure of visiting on a few occasions. If you ask Ross Dressler for possible ways of seeking a rest while at Delphi, I am certain that he can provide a few that involve wearing running sneakers and imagining yourself as a soaring jet plane. A funny story, really, that ended just short of international scandal. Over the past few weeks, my Latin 4 students and I have been studying the story of Narcissus and Echo, a beautiful and tragic story of the consequences of self-admiration and, dare I say, self-knowledge. Narcissus, a beautiful youth who was eagerly sought by suitors, both male and female, from the time he exited the womb, ultimately falls madly in love with his own image and transforms into a beautiful, yet easily overlooked flower, the crocus. Many readers interpret the nuances of this story with unfortunate simplicity. Don't be one of the self-absorbed, nonchalant egomaniacs who takes more time to admire him or herself in the mirror than it took VH1 to realize finally that Jersey Shore was not the second coming of Beverly Hills 90210. Narcissus, while gazing upon his own image in a beautiful pool of water, is transfixed on his own beauty and neglects the basics of sustaining life. He refrains from eating, drinking, and sleeping. He, in a sense, is the first victim of the modern and horribly deleterious affliction known as Snapchat-itis. What is often left out of modern conversation surrounding this myth is the initial prophecy for Narcissus' future. Upon his exit from his mother's womb, Narcissus' beautiful mother is told that her son will lead a long life, si se non knowert, or if he does not know himself. I'll read that again. He will lead a long life if he does not know himself. This oracular response seems a bit odd, doesn't it? He will lead a long life if he does not know himself. Seems counterintuitive, ironic, and just flat out wrong. Aren't we encouraged to know ourselves as a means of self-preservation and self-improvement? And as a way to develop confidence in our own endeavors? Ovid might say no. So I'd like to take a moment or two to reflect on what seem to be the perils, latent or overt, that exist as a result of self-knowledge. And I'd like to do that through the lens of losing. Finishing in second place. Finishing in last place, not being recognized as the best, not beating the vaunted foes from Boston Latin School at the Harvard Curtana, not earning summa cum laude on the National Latin exam, not being able to parallel park a bus in a snowbank in a tiny parking lot in Boston with about 20 mocking adolescents pointing at you. I was successful at that task. It's the New York. When we lose, we are provided with an extraordinary opportunity, an opportunity for reflection. 10 bonus points on the final exam for any Latin student who laughs at that rather overt pun on the Narcissus story. I'll read that again. On reflection, 10 bonus points on the final exam for any Latin student who laughs. Thank you. It's all in the time, I guess. Losing with attentiveness to why we lost provides us with an opportunity to be reflective even though it initially invites the tendency to rationalize why we lost. Losing with this sort of graceful acuity gives us an opportunity to pay attention to others in their own moments of triumph. In the face of losing, we are faced with a host of choices. We can rationalize that the Curtaman players from AMSA and BLS win so often because that's all they do is study Latin. We can rationalize our loss by saying, we never have enough time to practice, or we have social lives and they don't. Or, my own personal favorite, now we can get home earlier and get a jump on our Latin homework, Mr. Gnolfo. Now, I'm not here to say that those responses are not valid. Well, maybe the last one lacks validity. But there is certainly a good amount of truth in those responses I just mentioned. However, can we take a moment to think about what the benefits may be of sitting in and embracing our own discomfort after we lose? Embracing this sort of discomfort would certainly have gotten me into some classical beef with the Roman poet Horace, but I would challenge you to reflect on the merits of losing as a means of embarking upon a lifelong quest of achieving greater self-knowledge, rather than clinging to an immediately and presently comfortable notion that we have already formed perfect notions of who we are as individuals. I know myself, so I know why I won. I know myself, so I know why I lost. I know myself, so I know I would hate to study an awesomely dead language. I know myself, so I know I would hate seeing Katy Perry in concert. What if discomfort were embraced? Again, my students will pardon the narcissist pun. Reflected upon, and used as a means to guide oneself along an imperfect and sometimes arduous road of self-discovery. I don't know about you, but if I were sagacious enough to have my words on Apollo's temple, I might have suggested the edit of discover yourself instead of know yourself. Because of the active and engaging and forever incomplete endeavor of discovery versus the seemingly finite notion of knowledge. Losing is difficult. In fact, so often we tend to veil the term losing with any number of euphemisms in order to allay the sting of the word's connotation. Nevertheless, in these moments of defeat, we are somehow offered conduits for self-improvement. Conduits that are much more navigable, and whose efficacy is more potent in the moments immediately following moments of failure. The Greeks distinguished between concepts of time. Chronos, the linear notion of time that affirms, for example, that I have spoken far too long. And kairos, which denotes an indeterminate time for opportunity. In other words, the right time. That which stands in the way of self-improvement is the inability to recognize when chronological events present the right or opportune moments to recognize, reflect, reorganize, and rebuild stronger. In the conduits we travel, no matter how strewn with debris, let's approach our navigation with a keen sense of knowing that knowing ourselves is never a finite act, but rather one that requires a careful and constant attention to the moments that provide opportunities for growth. And so, with all that having been said, let me quote one of Catullus' famous lines, "Cenavis bene apud me," or "you will dine well in my presence." A big word of thanks goes to all who brought this wonderful food, and a specific request from Brady Dill. Where are you, Brady? Raise your hand. Yes, specific request for Brady Dill to try his cheesecake. Trust me, having sampled a piece yesterday, I can say confidently that even the most conscious of health conscious will quickly succumb to this temptation. In a few minutes, we will have the great opportunity to hear from an alumnus and former Latin student, Dr. Jordan Sack. Nights like this one reaffirmed to me and to Ms. Rizzo just how special it is to be a teacher, and more specifically, just how fortunate we are to teach at Rocky Hill School. Thank you, have an enjoyable evening, and eat well in our presence.